It's time for a morning must-read. Here's Scarlet.
And my morning must-read goes back to Adam's top story, which has to be Egypt and the events taking place there. Alistair Newton, the senior political analyst over at Nomura International, writes that by ousting a democratically elected government, the army risks turning Egypt into a latter-day Pakistan. That is, a country where the army is prepared to use its position as the ultimate arbiter of power to oust any democratically elected government, which might threaten its own interests. This change, he says, is not going to resolve any of the mid to long-term problems, Egypt's deep-rooted economic problems, and risks becoming an overall negative for economic development.
Yeah, some superb reading out in the last 48 hours
everywhere
about this divide between sectarian Egypt. We'll talk to a supporter of the sectarian group in our next hour, and then others will. And you have something on Egypt as well.
I certainly do. From the Washington Post, this is my must-read. Michelle Dunne of the Rafik Hariri Center trying to put some perspective, what it means for Americans. Quote, the best option for the United States is to return to core principles. This was a military coup against a democratically elected president. U.S. officials should call it a coup while acknowledging that Morsi had himself taken some undemocratic steps. The reason this is important, if the U.S. calls this a coup, there are laws on the U.S. books that prevent the U.S. from continuing to support the Egyptian military. They may not want to do that. That's why they're not calling it a coup. But you know what? You always got to go back to what you are and your core principles. We are a democratically elected people.
Especially on Independence Day.
Yes. And there's a shot of Tahrir Square 2 days after the celebrations. Of course, those photos across our Independence Day, a quieter square this morning. Our Twitter question of the day, should the United States call the events in Egypt a coup d'etat? You can tweet us at @BSurveillance, certainly a front and center foreign policy question this morning at @BSurveillance, and it's free.